Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Elijah T and I welcome you to my, I believe, third or maybe fourth show that I'm running today in English for hopefully a more mixed, maybe a little more international community. Because of the topic that we'll be covering, this makes a lot of sense. I'll be talking today, first of all, maybe let me introduce myself if this is the first time that you are here. Not only am I Elijah T, which may say nothing to you, but what's more important to you maybe is that I'm a journalist. I come from free press and have no background in mainstream whatsoever, and I'm pretty proud of that because of the quality of my work that I am able to provide because of that. And yeah, I'm a journalist, free journalist, and have been part of a lot of press that has been this Sunday around at Brussels at the Europeans United demonstrations, protests, call it what you will. And I wanted to give you an exclusive look into not only just my mind, but have a discussion with two other people who have been at the forefront of resistance, not only in Germany, but in Europe. Mainly the two guests that I'll be talking to is Markus HAINTZ and Alexander EHRLICH, whom you may have heard from as well. You'll be getting to hear from them a lot today because they'll be sharing their opinions on what has actually passed or come to pass actually in Brussels on Sunday, and whether everything is as it seems or as it has been purported by either the media or including our own circles, which includes alternative media or people who consume them, let's say on Telegram or on DLive, the platform where you may be watching this right now, if you're not following along on YouTube, which I invite you to do, because if we get to hear from you and see your feedback, that'll show us that there's a point in us reaching over to you over the counter and offering you our hopefully more or less expert opinions on what we have witnessed in Brussels. So without any further ado, let me introduce the two guys that I'll be talking to. Markus HAINTZ, who you see in the corner up there already, used to be a super lawyer turned now full-time human rights activist, and below Alexander EHRLICH, former businessman, maybe still businessman, entrepreneur extraordinaire, but also human rights activist and at the forefront of what is called the so-called resistance, and not only in Austria, Alexander EHRLICH, but also Germany, Markus HAINTZ, and also Europe, all of us combined together. So we'll be talking today about where the violence possibly came from. Obviously, we have no final, I want to say, confirmations of anything. We'll be sharing our speculations with you. But we want to ground them in what we've seen over there. So we'll be sharing a lot of our observations and we'll be validating them by showing you the video proof that we have seen, including our own thoughts, which we hope you will agree at the end of this show make a lot of sense in the context of what's happened there. So maybe to just give the two a moment to introduce themselves to an international audience, maybe new audience. Dear Markus, let's start with you. Did I introduce you correctly? Ex-lawmaker turned human rights full-time activist. Does that characterize you enough? Is that what people need to know for us to start the show? Or is there anything else we're missing?
Let's say lawyer. You said top lawyer. Whatever. I'm a lawyer. I was a lawyer. I'm working as a lawyer, but at the moment I'm more freedom activist, although I do a lot of lawsuits as well. Like we said, from Germany, but I am at the moment traveling a lot through Europe. This starts in July 2021. I went to Paris there, and since then I was on protests in France, in Spain, in Brazil, in Italy, Poland, Hungary, Belgium, Italy. I had Italy already.
Right.
Austria, and pretty much on every big protest in Germany the last 2 years. So
right. So I think it's. I was going to say. So I think it's fair to say that you had your fair share of experience when it comes to both traveling abroad and also protesting on the streets and also legally. So it's great to have you here because you'll be your opinions will be invaluable because you've been at the forefront also of this particular protest as well, not just in the midst of it all, but really on the front lines. And so your observations will be very meaningful to us. Alexander Ehrlich, maybe the same to you. So I introduced you as the entrepreneur extraordinaire, using a lot of French vocabulary there because we just come from Belgium, where half of the population at least understands French. Is there anything else you want to share with the people, or do you feel that the international community knows already enough about you since you've been very present there actually already?
Well, let me still say a few words to point out what is the really important role that I have the honor to play in the resistance internationally. Before the pandemic, I used to be an entrepreneur in the tourism sector. My job was to manage international coach travel anywhere in Europe and also in Asia. And basically organizing workflows and logistics is my core competence, although I am professional conference interpreter too for German, French, Italian, and English. Mm-hmm. So my role in this resistance is actually the role of a bridge between countries, between languages, between people of different origin who have one common goal, protecting human rights. And to answer your question, I'm not a businessman anymore. Since 2 years, I have completely focused only on human rights activism and neglected any commercial interest totally.
Well, you've neglected them, but not by choice. It's just that basically you've been forced out of whatever you were able to do very successfully professionally, right? But then due to the circumstances surrounding Corona and the restrictions that go along with it, you have been pretty much pushed out of your own business. I just want to let people know that it's not that you basically went bankrupt or anything, you know, doing a job very well as you have done for so many years. It's just that you've shifted your focus and you now have become pretty much the full-time resistance fighter that people have come to know you as. All right. Thank you very much for these introductions. Let's now shift into our conversation. Yeah. What did you mean to add?
Let's say international coach tourism is destroyed. It doesn't exist anymore. Hence, you are right. This business is destroyed. However, I had the chance 2 years ago. I could have entered, you know, testing business or mask business or something. But I chose to enter human rights activism because it is the right thing to do.
Awesome. Good decision. Absolutely. I think this is one that you'll not come to regret. All right, let's talk about what we want to talk about, and that's basically our observations from Belgium. All the three of us have been in different roles in Brussels. Me, strictly just as a journalist, as an observer. Markus, pretty much on the front lines, and although he has been also been a member of the press there, he's been basically sort of like shape-shifting between different roles. And Alexander Ehrlich, who has also been part of the organizing teams of, he made sure to remind me of that, Europeans United, which has no affiliations to any other major resistance groups in Germany. And I believe your own Telegram channel, Alexander, is called the Group Without Any Labels or something like that. So you don't want to associate yourself like with nobody from the past. You're building something completely new, not just you yourself, but with a greater group of organizers who have put up an amazing rally at Brussels. And if people have been looking into any of our live streams that we've been putting out there, either from alternative media, but also mainstream major media have covered this, they will have seen that there have been, I want to say, multiple tens of thousands of people. We've speculated that it's probably somewhere between 100 and maybe 150K, which sounds like a realistic number. And we have to let people know that the majority of that has been particularly peaceful. Right, so I'm going to show some images, and let's not forget, whilst we will obviously focus on how it came to be that this peaceful setting got disturbed, let's please not forget that the majority, and I want to say really the large majority, more than 85% probably of time span of demonstration has been, as you see it here, completely peaceful, and not just actually a standing rally, but let me show you also another clip. It has been the greatest moving procession that I have seen in, I want to say, 18 months of protesting all over Europe as well. It's been a major success because we have managed to bring out a really peaceful, really diverse crowd from, I want to say, all angles and all sorts of life, right? Coming from all over Europe. But please don't just take my word for it, Alexander, or actually Markus. Now your turn. Please describe the first 85% of what has been, in my experience, a peaceful protest. What have you seen there? What was your observation of that?
Yeah, let me start. I got out of the hotel and wanted to look where is the protest, and look left. Okay, several people came. Look right, and there was a really big march, and it was the biggest march I ever seen, and I saw a lot of them. Maybe there was one bigger demonstration I ever saw. This was in Sao Paulo 4 months ago. But in Europe, this was the biggest one. Really broad streets, several kilometers, several miles long, from the Gare du Nord to the park where the speeches were held. And in the beginning, it was a completely mixed up, people from all over Europe, a lot of flags. We had large groups, for sure, from France, from Germany, from the Netherlands, but also from other countries, North, South, East Europe. So it was absolutely phenomenal to be there. And yeah.
And we have to say, I want to mention just one detail for people basically who are wondering how come that we're talking in English right now. This is for you, the international community. Thank you for tuning in right now. But if you're wondering how come that we're rushing a little bit, right, through the different subjects of our conversation, that comes from the fact that we just had this entire discussion, probably in lengthier form, even in German. And so in order to compress it into like a show that you guys can then enjoy, hopefully in a shorter format, we're basically jumping between topics to make sure that you can follow along. I want to just point out another detail that you alerted me to, actually, Markus, is has there been any police presence, any significant police presence within either the crowd of demonstrators as they have been processing through the street, or alongside of it? So how has been basically the ratio between demonstrators and police for the first 85% of this event?
In the beginning, there was nearly no police. There was one parliament building. There were some police with barricades, several 10, 20, 30 meters away from the protest. In the protest, there was absolutely no police I saw. Normally, for me, that's not the best sign, because it's good if there is some police who is protecting the crowd, who is protecting the march. So this is what made it different, or made it difficult several hours later. But in the beginning, I saw nearly no police, and in the march, I saw not a single one. Not
a single person. Okay, not a single officer. Alexander, you have been directly involved with organizing this event. Has it been particularly difficult in talking, for example, to officials of the city or maybe police up front to get this on the streets? Has there been a lot of resistance, or did you feel as much welcome as any protest can be in these circumstances in Brussels?
Well, beforehand, I did not participate in the cooperation talks with the local police. This was the job of Tom Mayer, who was the main organizer and who lives in Brussels. So logically, it was his job to speak to police before the demonstration. Okay. During the demonstration, I can confirm what Markus said. There was police 2-3 streets away, blocking access to the route. But there were no policemen, not a single one in the march, and also on the stationary demonstration, not one police officer visible.
All right, cool. Thank you very much for sharing this detail. I wasn't aware that you hadn't been involved up front, because I've seen you in the middle of the demonstration being present pretty much at any stage. So I thought that you must have been included up front as well, but we're not sharing fake news here. So thank you for pointing that out.
Of course. I was part of the organizing team, but my job was not doing all those preparative conversations with local police.
Yeah, I see.
First of all, because I do not live in Brussels, and second, I do not speak Dutch, and they speak Dutch.
Obviously, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I should have probably thought of that myself. All right, let's get into another topic, which is basically strength in numbers. There are a bunch of numbers that have been thrown around in the media before we get to why probably people have clicked on this thumbnail, is us analyzing how it came to be that there was a violent outburst from this very peaceful protest. Let us talk a little bit about how many people we speculate were there. There are a bunch of, there's a bunch of footage that came out of this event, and some of it even, you know, as spectacular as what we're looking at right now. And whilst we all wanted to be the million that was promoted up front, the organizers would have loved to welcome 1 million people to Brussels. What can we say? What number did we settle on, Markus? Which one do we think is more realistic, as we saw the people first file in and then file out in this crash, basically over the course of the day? What do you think?
Yeah, mainstream media in Germany spoke from about 70,000 people. I think it was a lot more, because it was the route was about 5 kilometers, but there came more people and more people and more people, and the first came to the park, and then after this huge crowd followed from the Gare du Nord, and it was very broad streets. So it's not only that you can say it's 5 kilometers of a march. Maybe it was in the end it was 10 kilometers because of the people who are following, and the streets were really big, like you can see here. And if you do the math, I think it's way over 100,000 people, and I'm a little bit more conservative with that numbers, but for me it was the biggest march I ever saw.
And you've been all over the world pretty much looking at all of them. Maybe another detail that I just want to point out, Alexander, we just spoke about this in the previous show that we did, is you as an organizer team, right, managed to accomplish multiple goals. And one of those has been very dear to your heart, is you always said that this had to be an international, a European effort. So can you speak maybe a little bit to the crowd? How diverse was it? Where did people come from? Was this like 85% just Belgians who happened to live there? Or did you actually achieve what you set out to accomplish, which is to bring together the world in Brussels on this particular day? Alexander, did you hear me?
Well, maybe we did not bring...
I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Maybe we did not bring the world together, but we definitely brought Europe together. This crowd was extremely heterogeneous, coming from all countries in Europe, not only the European Union, but also countries who are not part of the Union, like Switzerland or Turkey. We have seen a lot of Romanian presence. We have seen Portuguese, we have seen Greek, we have seen Finnish. Plus, we have even seen guests from outside Europe, Brazilians who flew in just to be part of this protest, of this rally. The majority, of course, of demonstrators came from France, Belgium, Netherlands, and Germany. I would say more or less in equal parts. That is logical because they have the shortest way to go there. However, there were people who did lots of hundreds of kilometers to be with us in Brussels. And I'm very happy that this was possible, to meet everybody united at one place.
Right. It was actually really a beautiful moment in time. I have to say, I never doubted that we were going to succeed in that, because it felt like this demonstration had been coming for such a long time and had been promoted so heavily. And so I never doubted that we would be there in masses, as we have seen there. So it was really a big number of people. Again, I want to say we were definitely 6 figures, so probably anywhere between 100K to 150,000, I think is the most realistic number. And you've seen there, the entire procession, or basically the demonstration day, was split into, I want to say, 3 parts. First part was the longest. That was the procession that we just seen. Second part was the remainders of what was possible to still follow through with, which is basically this little bit around the stage, which people heavily flocked towards. But then the third part, unfortunately, then the longest one, was when police reacted, I want to say, to a disturbance and had to push all of these people that we just saw away, not just from the state buildings, the official buildings where violence first erupted, but also they pushed them in front of themselves through first the park, which was a very, prior to that, very peaceful place where people were just hanging out and basically just enjoying the day there. And then also they pushed them through, I want to say, like one main axis in the city, which went about, I want to say, multiple kilometers. And what remained behind was pretty much, like, I want to say, broken and burned land. It was in very stark contrast to what we had seen before, but we cannot deny it happened. And it started all out basically because a group of, prior to that, unidentified individuals sort of found their way within the group of peaceful protesters. I'm going to show this moment right here, and maybe Markus, can you talk about where these people come from and who we believe they must have been?
Yeah, according to our sources and research, it was a group from France who call themselves Bloc Lorraine. They are anarchists, and they tried to get into the protest. And then on the Rue de la Loi, they attacked the building of the European Union. I was there as I arrived on the entrance of the park, and I have a lot of video footage of this. I got some tear gas, and they pretty much were the problem on this at this day, because normally they should have they had not have the possibility to get into the protest. Normally they have to go to the Gare du Nord and then go into the protest because the police blocked the side streets. But yeah, we don't know how they get in. Alexander can say a little bit more to that. But after this attack, the police, several 20-30 minutes later, pushed them forward. But at this time, they had enough capacity to lock them up in the street, because down the street there was a lot of police. And on the other side, if they would have brought in several 60, 80 policemen, they could have stopped this immediately. But this didn't happen. So police went further and further and further. And at one point, the organizers said, okay, let's stop this protest. And the police could have done a way better job than they did here. But I think it's some kind of the tactic of the police to let this violence occur. And so the government or the mayor of the city can say, oh, look, there's a bad protest, there are riots, and next time you're not allowed to come back to Brussels. So
right. So this may actually mean that in the future protests will have a tougher time getting permissions, right, to march through the cities because of prior bad examples who come from these bad apples. Alexander, can you maybe elaborate a little bit? Did you expect that this group was going to arrive? Has it been a total surprise? Have they announced their arrival at all prior to the rally actually happening? Did we have problems of this kind at other demonstrations as well that you have seen, for example, in Vienna in Austria, where you are from? Is this black bloc, whether it's called Antifa, whether it's called Bloc Lorraine or whatever, are they a prevalent problem and all of our peaceful protests, or has it been an isolated incident which only occurred first time and only in Brussels?
Okay, these were 20 questions in one. Let me first answer, yes, there is a pattern. Looking at several hundreds or thousands of demonstrations all over Europe, there always is some group of people who want escalation, who want violence, and they enter peaceful demonstrations and try to escalate. Politically, those people are not always the same. Sometimes it's Antifa, sometimes it's an anarchy group like le Bloc Lorraine. Sometimes, in many cases, it is also people who call themselves patriots, but who actually are nothing than white supremacists imposing topics to these protests which are not at all the majority opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever they are, sometimes they might also be mixed. There are people who just want to fight, to have fun doing a street battle.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, those people just provide to the governments and to the authorities what they really need, because they want to show those pictures to the general audience in
Mm-hmm.
order to tell other people, hey, look, those who are against our form of governing and against our measures, they are just some criminals, they are just violent people, better not go and stand with them.
Mm.
This is how they try to keep our resistance small.
Mm. By reducing us to basically just the violent parts and omitting the peaceful images of the majority, which outnumber the violent ones by a factor of, I want to say, 1,000 probably.
Yeah, you got hundreds of thousands peaceful people and 200 violent criminals, and they only show the 200 violent criminals. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Asking about Vienna, I must add, the Vienna leftists, left activists, like you could call them Antifa, have contacted me immediately after this event in Brussels, saying, we have nothing to do with that. That is not what we want, and we firmly condemn this action. Mm-hmm. So this is very impressive, because those people claim to act for all the extreme left activists in the world, but they don't even represent these. They are just a block of 200 crazy people who wanted a street battle, and they are representing nobody, neither the peaceful demonstrators nor any political group. They are just kids who want to fight.
Yeah. And not technically kids, because I've seen some adults there as well. There's a bunch of guys with lots of muscles and heavy beards, and so that sort of suggests to me that they are probably not in their infantile years. But nevertheless, I see what you mean, that they're certainly like mentally kids. They have not developed fully, and they don't know what they're doing, like as the Bible verse says, right? So don't fault them because they don't know what they're doing. Either way, it's been a shame that basically this peaceful protest has been reduced to just, these scenes. What you've been seeing over the past minute and a half has been a report of the German news outlet Bild, which is one of the major ones in our country. And you can tell from the scenes that they string together is they have put in 90% of, just horror scenes, whereas the peaceful protest, they've shown us well. They absolutely have, but you just missed it. Blink and you can miss it. They had it in here for like, I want to say 5 seconds, and the rest of it is basically just horror scenarios with water cannons and horses and police brutality as they're advancing against all of the protesters there. This is an important point to point out, because Markus, you said this before when you were talking, is you said the government had the excuse to basically confront and cancel the entire protest, right? By protest, you meant the rally, which used to be a very peaceful process, a very straightforward and law-abiding, right? Because you complied with all, or the people there complied with all of the rules that were set upon them, right? But nevertheless, in fighting a very small minority within this huge procession, the government took the opportunity to cancel out the entire event, which was set to happen in the park, which hadn't happened yet, which was cut short, and which basically ended in like a total disaster, because all of the invited speakers, and there was a number of them, right, who had traveled internationally to be there on this day, they all didn't get to speak, right? And so basically, maybe let's cover this into a question. So what followed after the main event, which was a stationary event, was cancelled in the streets of Brussels? What was your observation?
Yeah, the police is pushed forward and forward and forward. Yeah, Alexander told me that at one point a leader of the police said, okay, this is not in my hands anymore, because the mayor of the city of Brussels wants this to escalate, or wants this demonstration to stop. And after these pictures we saw with the tear gas and the destroying of this building, police got about 50 meters further to the entrance of the park. And I went to the stage and hold not a speech. Go to the stage and told the people this is happening 300, 400, 500 meters away from us, and we have to do something to build something like a chain between the peaceful protesters and between these rioters, to show we are peaceful people, and to try to give the police not the possibility,
the reason, the excuse, yeah,
the excuse to stop our protest. And these are the pictures. This was the entrance of the park, and I first tried to take some veterans with me and tell the people, please don't follow to this crime scene, something like that. Only if you are press, to make some video footage and to make some pictures. And our plan was to build, my plan, whatever, was to build a chain between us and the police, so the rioters stop. Otherwise, they have to throw stone at us. Yeah. In Vienna, one time we did this successfully. This time it didn't work because there were not enough people to build this lane, this chain. But to be honest, it was more dangerous than we had it I think in December in Vienna, because they throw everything. They throw stones, they throw bottles, and they were way more aggressive than a smaller group in Vienna.
Yeah, so you can basically see this moment there.
Show the police we are peaceful, and please arrest these criminals and let us carry on.
Right. What you're seeing right here has been prior to that, the moment that Markus just described. This is basically where this black bloc all of a sudden manifested and started to topple the peaceful organizers who were also present, and tried to keep them away from, to separate them basically from the peaceful protest. But unfortunately, it was all in vain, because what came to be was an all-out battle in the streets where police was there in full force. I have a great image that I can share with you guys, or actually it's a video where you can see the strength in which, you know, they were present there. It was really asymmetrical. Markus, you mentioned this in our prior show. If they wanted to, I believe they had the firepower, I want to say, right, or just say the brute force, right, to be able to control this situation. However, they just chose not to, because it was convenient for them to have the perfect excuse to cut down the stationary talking bit of the protest, which was still going to happen at that moment. And instead they chose to force their way through the park, over the stage, over the plaza that you see right here, right now. I mean, you can see in the background right there, maybe let's show me here, right here. They had armored cars there. They had at one point dogs that they had used. They had those tear gas grenades. So they had everything in their arsenal, and they were ready to go to war. It looks very peaceful right here, but there were moments when you would really think, where am I right here? Is this like the middle of Baghdad or something, you know, or is this still the heart of Europe and Brussels at that? So that was really a crazy experience to be in. Alexander, maybe getting back to you. So we have since had a lot of speculation, right? Who the culprits might be, who is to blame, right, for this escalation. And there have been multiple theories, right? So there are some things out there, some facts that indicate that, as Markus pointed out right now, the mayor is to blame, right? Or basically city officials, because they wanted this escalation to happen. They let it happen, right? Then there's obviously a huge portion of blame where you can say maybe it was just a black bloc. But then there's also one instance where we've seen police, right? Covert police, right? People who were dressed up as protesters who have been seen as they have basically entered the ranks of police, despite even taking maybe first some pepper spray in the face. They have been uncovered, so to speak, and a lot of people took that as a sign that it was actually all a police-driven escalation. Now, can you put that sort of like in a perspective for us? Is this like 100% proof that police is to blame, or maybe is there another explanation for why policemen dressed in, I want to say, uniforms of protesters joined the ranks of their own?
Well, first of all, having police among protesters is a very normal thing. This is a standard procedure anywhere. The important thing is, which we need to ask, how do these policemen act? Do they just observe and report, or do they actively participate in getting people aggressive, in throwing stones or such things? Mm-hmm. However, this is not the central point that I want to criticize. The central point I want to criticize, I made a quick sketch here. I don't know if you can see it well on the camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can.
You had this block entering the protest through a road where normally there should have been a police block. It should not have been open. It was open. We do not know why. Mm-hmm. Then they entered here and attacked the building of the European Union. Mm-hmm. Our protest our rally at this time was down here in the Parc du Cinquantenaire. We had the stage and we had all those people which you have shown on the images right here in this show. Mm-hmm. And here in between, there was a corridor of like 400 or 500 meters where there was nothing at all happening, just distance. So this violence escalated definitely outside of our rally. Yes. And instead of just isolating those people, of building here, arresting them and treating them how they deserved it, police chose, well, not police, the police leaders chose to order their officers to push those people down this street all that way, to push them inside here. And then, here you see it well. Yes, this is the route. They needed to push them all that way to get them into the peaceful rally. And then they could attack them inside the peaceful rally, claiming they were part of our demonstration, which they were not.
Exactly.
They pushed them inside.
So they could have, and there's a video going around that is, I believe, titled Proof of Police Intent, right? Which basically explains exactly the situation that you've just sketched out, right? So demonstrators were coming in from the left, could have been stopped or could have been confronted or could have been contained, right? I want to say within this area right here, not going into the park. Instead, police chose to position water cannons in a certain way and advance in a certain way so that pretty much all of those demonstrators, whether they were violent or 100% peaceful, got pushed together, right? Got sort of, I want to say moved into the direction of the stage, which is off screen right here, which basically, was in no way affiliated with whatever was going on in the background.
Yeah. Yes, and there was fences. There was fences to stop it. The video, the picture you showed 5 minutes ago. You see a big fence. So it's very easy for the police to stop this from the normal protest and to catch those people or to push them in some kind of another direction. But the police leadership. I say leadership, not normal police, because they act what they are, what their order is. Police leadership wanted to push that into our protest.
Exactly. By any means necessary. So you can see that they were very brutal about this, right? You saw, or you still can see, the water cannons spraying in every direction. You see the number of police that was present. I mean, I've painted a pretty brutal picture, I believe, and it was tough to see, right? That this literally is the most central point probably of Brussels, and that it got turned into a war zone. For what, actually, right? To just fight 200 people, and then more than 100,000 had to suffer for it, and also our peaceful event had to suffer for it. That's the actual tragedy, I want to say, of this day.
Here you see the fence. And if you want to end this, you put some police on that fence, and then you can cover them up. They had at least 3 water cannons in that area. It's
Right.
absolutely no problem for these policemen to get these 200, sometimes kids, sometimes adult people, because in France or in Belgium, police is acting a little bit more rude, like in Germany. And if they want to catch people, they can do this. They had a lot of undercover agents who can give the orders. Okay, this group, that group, and it's absolutely easy from a tactical standpoint to get this thing secure, so the protest can carry on, and you clean up the scenery.
Exactly. They certainly had the manpower. They certainly had the I want to say the armored supremacy there, right? So in terms of like if they could have done it, right? There's no question there for anybody who was really there, right? Police was so over present that they could have contained this real protest within the peaceful protest at any moment, right? They didn't need to have this escalated. But Alexander, you pointed this out in our prior show. You said they maybe purposefully left open. Oopsie, we forgot about it. An avenue, right, which these the protesters, the bad ones, took, right, to be able to advance further within the streets. That's something that you mentioned, didn't you? That they basically had like forgotten to close one of the side roads here, and so they basically managed to all of a sudden be really up close to one of the states building that needed additional protection.
Yes, indeed. And just to point that out, it is possible to do it differently. In Vienna on 8th January, we had a similar situation of some provocateur who wanted images of violence, who threw things at the police, and police reacted completely differently. They isolated those people, built a chain around them, and then took their identities and whatever they did. However, they just put them away. They set them aside and let the peaceful people continue their march. And here it would have been even easier, because like Markus pointed out, if you look, there is a fence around that Parc du Cinquantenaire. You just would have needed like 10 or 20 police officers closing that fence, pushing the demonstrators. Yeah, exactly here. Yeah, close that gate, close it, and you can separate the aggressors from the peaceful people before they enter the park, because they did not want to enter the park. They just wanted to battle at the European Union building.
Right.
And this is now the question. When police leaders decide how to treat a rally, how to treat such a reunion of people, they have two options. They can say, okay, I want to protect the fundamental right of reunion, of protesting peacefully. In this case, you need to protect the peaceful ones and isolate the criminals. Or they can decide, no, we want to impeach people coming together and criticizing something that we do not want them to criticize. And in this case, you can use criminals as an excuse to attack everybody. And as you already said, I have strong reason to believe that this was a political intervention, because when all that started, I asked Tom Mert to call the police leader, and we called him together. And I had occasion to listen to this conversation. I do not speak Dutch, but speaking German and English, you can understand a lot. And also, of course, he told me afterwards what that guy had said, that police leader. And he explicitly mentioned a direct intervention of the mayor of Brussels City. So here you see the political dimension. Usually a mayor doesn't interfere with police action and tells them what they have to do. They act on their own.
Right.
Let me put it in even more provocative words. Had that been a Fridays for Future protest, probably they would have arrested those 200 criminals within 5 minutes, and nobody would have ever seen one of those images. They would have showed 1 million people having fun and showing love and harmony. But we dare criticizing the governors, the system, the mayor, the European Union itself as well, We dare criticizing those who are in power. So, of course, they want to make us look bad.
Right. Now, that's a brilliant analysis. It totally makes sense for me, for anybody who has an open heart and open eyes. You know, there's no denying that this is most likely what's happened and the reason why it's happened. We're left basically at the same time baffled. At the same time, though, we kind of saw it coming because, as you pointed out, Alexander, this has been happening in Austria. This has been happening in Germany as well, where we have major problems with Antifa groups. Although they should join us for whatever reason, you know, the anti-authoritarian part of them chose to basically support government and all of their rules in Germany, at least. Now, having come from this event, what can we take away from it? I don't want to ask you about whether it's been a success yet. I want to ask future demonstrations that are set to happen, either in the coming days or maybe in the longer future. How can they maybe prevent this from happening? What do you think is something they can look out for, Markus? Is there any way to identify these groups? Do we need to have like a stronger following of social media to be able to detect and maybe talk to police even closer, to do our own sort of like policing criminalistic work, to warn them up front that this type of group is coming? Or do you think that this is pointless because, as again Alexander pointed out, this may have been wanted? They wanted this type of outcome all along, and it would be useless for us to know what's coming and to warn them because they're actually welcoming it in the middle of Brussels.
Yeah, I think you can do a lot. Even if the mayor says he wants this, then you can show the police the right signals. We don't want this. You can address this from a stage. We know the mayor is using you to attack peaceful protest. We help you to arrest the criminals, and then we carry on with our protest. You can do this. For sure, it's not our profession to do the work of the police. But I think we have a lot of experience in the last 2 years. We have good people who know how this game is played. Yeah, it's a media war, it's an information war. We know all of that. So we can address the police in advance of a protest. Yeah, I did a lot of protests on myself. I spoke with police, and it's not the first time we warned the police. Okay, this group is coming. We have information. Or you see it in the protest, and you go to the police. Okay, these can maybe be some provocateurs. Please bring some policemen there, check them up, and so on. So you can do a lot. In normal times, this is not necessary, because if you make a Fridays for Futures protest, nobody cares. The politicians think, oh, this is fine. Yeah, but if you protest against the government, you have to realize that there is some people who wants to disturb this protest, because you cannot stop this peaceful freedom movement without violence. So the system needs violence, and it's our goal, and that's what we have to do to prevent this violence. And you can address the police in advance of a protest. You can bring in your own people who watch all of this, and you can make a lot of pressure from a stage, because you can say to the normal police, yeah, they want to bring you in against us, your leadership, your mayor, but we are peaceful. And if you are in this situation, okay, you can do a lot of things. You can sit down peacefully 200 meters away from the police. You can use cameras, and so nobody normally will attack you, because you must show the police we are peaceful. That's what we tried here. If you do this with 100 people, and the stone throwers at one time realize, okay, we don't reach the police, maybe we have to throw at the protesters, maybe they go. Yeah, I said to several of them, if you want to throw a stone, please throw it at me. I said to one guy, if you want to kill somebody today, try it with me. Yeah, for sure, this takes some courage, but we hold that line about 30 minutes. Yeah, and if you can do this and then address the police, these are the criminals, please arrest them. Why don't you do that? Then it's very, very dangerous for a mayor to say, please attack those peaceful people. So in the next time, we can deal with them and say, okay, this was the fault from police. You should have done this, 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 that. And then you can show them, okay, we know how this game is played. And then it's not that easy for a mayor to disturb a protest.
Alexander, do you have anything to add? I mean, it's a very risky approach to protesting. I mean, not that protesting isn't risky already. We all know what we're risking, what we have lost personally, right, privately, how we have been framed, and how we've, so many business opportunities have been stripped away from us. But what Markus is proposing right now is basically, go even further into not just planning, but then really participating with your body in this protest, in this rally, to a degree that most people may feel uncomfortable going towards. But since we are in a war, a media war, a war of images, do you feel that this is necessary? Do you support his position?
Absolutely, yes. We have realized during the last 2 years that it is necessary to stand up for freedom. Now we see it is also necessary to stand up for peace. And standing up for peace needs a lot of courage. And it can also be dangerous, because standing up for peace is going into conflict with people who do not want peace, who are aggressive, and who are dangerous. Still, what Markus said makes a lot of sense. We need people who have the courage to go and stand and build this chain to protect police, to show them, we are protecting you. If you want to attack, you need to attack your friends, your protectors, your peaceful, cooperating demonstrators. This cannot be justified for anyone. The police officers themselves would have a big problem, even if they follow the order to attack those people. Afterwards, how can they look in the mirror? Also, at courts, you can really much better argument if you have those images. That here we have just 3. Actually, it was 5 of us who tried it. 5 is not enough, but with 80 or 100 people, it could actually have worked.
So you're saying if, excuse me for interrupting, so you're saying if basically you had just been, it didn't even take the veterans that Markus was trying to get. If you had just been more people standing with your backs towards the police, but also confronting the rioters, because I think this is the proper word, right? We need to make sure that we distinguish between the two groups. One was a peaceful protest group, and the other one, the much smaller one, they were rioters. They were looters, right? They were basically set out, for violence, hooligans, if you want to call them that, right? But you're saying if just peacefully more than 3 people, regular civilians, right, had tried what you're trying right here, you think your approach would have already succeeded?
Yeah, this is a last-minute measure which is possible to take when it is already close to escalating. Beforehand, we definitely need to go into tighter cooperation with the police. 99% of the work is not done during a demonstration, but before the demonstration. This needs to be done on a much higher level when we do international rallies like we did this time. Because here it's not about 200 or 300 people, which can easily be managed on the spot, but there needs to be much more professional preparation on the level of de-escalation and also on the level of diplomacy towards politicians and police leaders. But as you said, yes, more people who are willing to do this with us are needed, who don't care whether they endanger themselves, and who are ready to stand as a wall against violence, even before police has to do it. Because if we already manage to get those people standing down and stopping their attacks, police has no reason to interfere anymore.
Yeah, obviously, if we do the policing, right, with our own means, then they look bad because they didn't have to do anything, although they have actually the more potent means to break up any potential violence much more effortlessly. But I guess, it falls upon us, to save the world and to also save, so many future rallies from escalating the way that it happened. it is tough luck, but somebody needs to be doing it. And if we also need to clean the streets along with saving the world, then so shall it be. I say bring it on. And this leads me towards the end and my final question in this show. After having seen the violence as it has, occurred in Brussels, and we cannot, talk it away. It has been, unfortunately, an obstacle that will stand, and people will mostly remember it, for just the violence, this entire event, instead of all of the peaceful images that I've shown before. But as we have now come away from it and our thoughts are settled, do we believe that nonetheless this has been, Markus, the question now to you, that this has been a success? Or will this be remembered as the rally that changed it all, or basically it all turned to violence from now going forward? I think you're muted still. Yeah, go ahead.
I absolutely think it was a success. You have to say in France or even in Belgium and the Netherlands, you have, at bigger rallies, you have some violence. Yeah. It's pretty much normal if you have 100,000 people that there are some idiots. It's the same in normal life, yeah. And nobody was hurt really bad, as I know, yeah. So you have some people, you try to find some ways to get them if the police can't. But in the end of it, it was a very, very good. It was a good protest. We showed a lot of nice pictures, even mainstream media, yeah, in Germany told the story pretty much that there are a lot of peaceful people from the middle of the society, and one media guy told in his short interview, yeah, he's hoping that there will be no provocateurs getting in because he saw this before. So even from a media standpoint, it was good. Because they separated a little bit the protesters from the rioters, and that is our goal for the next protest, to show, okay, if there are people who are rioters, we have to separate them from our group, and we need to make pictures. That's one of the important things you have to do in such a situation. Even if you build such a chain, which should be the last possibility, the most work is done in advance to this, you need cameras. If there is 100 peaceful people and behind them there are 50 cameras, nobody will hurt you. I had a lot of situations like this, and normally you won't get hurt. And people who know me better from Germany know what I'm talking, because I had a lot of problems with police, with arrests, with attacks from left, with attacks from right. And if you behave the right way, normally you find a way out. So for me, it was absolutely phenomenal to get to Brussels, to see all these people from different countries of Europe, even from the world, all these languages, these flags. And this is something we can build on, and we will build on. So I think we definitely carry on with this type of protest. And the next time we're getting better, and we force the police, in which city we are going, to get better, to protect our right to protest, and to get, if there are some rioters, to get them, put them out, and then to show all the world the peaceful protests without these rioters.
All right. Thank you very much for your opinion. You have been at the forefront of this entire battle since pretty much the start. I cannot even imagine this resistance fight at any moment where you haven't been part of it. So thanks very much for everything you've done, especially in also covering these protests on your own. You have a channel. I want to mention this right now. If there's anybody out there in Europe who, for whatever reason, doesn't still follow or doesn't yet follow Markus, his Telegram group is Heinz. You can see it at the very top right there on the left side of his corner at his image. It's basically almost like the ketchup brand, but not quite. It's just with an A in there. Either way, please do share and follow him, because he's a great guy to be around, and he's a good buddy to have with you, whether you're at the protest or not. All right, thank you very much for your opinions. And now you, Alexander Ehrlich, it falls upon you to summarize your final thoughts as we have come all together from Brussels, as you have painfully experienced what it feels like to take a water cannon stream in your own back. which I'm glad that you've recovered from. How would you summarize what has happened there? Has this been a success? Has this been the beginning of the end? Is this where we maybe learn how to deal with both media and police and rioters at the same time, or is this where it all starts to crumble? What are your final thoughts?
Well, I totally agree with Markus. It has been a great success. The third one in Brussels, by the way, each one getting even bigger and bigger. We will have Europeans United 4 in Brussels. The date is not yet clear. We will be much better prepared for such events. And we will also intensify our international cooperation. We have already announced that our organization team, the multinational one from all those countries, is going to invite to Berlin on 30 July 2022 for the first time Europeans United Berlin. Why so long in advance? Because it takes a long time to do all the work, to put together the media work, to put together preparations of people who stand up against violence and so on. Plus, this will be also done in many, many other places and cities. I strongly believe that cooperating internationally is the only way that we can win. Staying peaceful is the only way that we can win. And we are winning because the protests are getting bigger, bigger, bigger. The media always more critical towards the governments, always more open for our viewpoints, which are the viewpoints of peace, constitutionality, and justice. And we have now a very clear example. This is, you can call it the school book of violence and media framing. Never before has it been made so clear and so easy to understand as in Brussels, 23 January. And from here, every organizer all over the world can learn his lessons, can prepare his counter actions. So we delivered a positive element, even though the rally could not be ended as planned.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's my conclusion.
It was a big moment. I have to underline that, underscore that any way I can. I mean, like, look at it any way you want. It was the biggest protest of any group, I want to say, over the course of the past 10 years, including the demonstrations that are politically correct and politically not only tolerated, but wanted and amplified by the media. And we were set out to lose from the start, but managed to come through in the end, despite what has happened there. I, for one, will certainly remember the 85%, the first part of this procession, which was 100% peaceful, which, as we set out to do, brought together all of Europe and showed us how much potential is there. And I'm 100% confident that going forward, whether it's Europeans United 4 in Brussels or whatever it will be called in July in Berlin, this undertaking will succeed. Maybe, since we see quick developments in Europe, I hope there's even a chance that it will not even get to that. Because if you look at Denmark, what's happening there right now, if you look at what's happening in Czech Republic, if you look at, so many countries, Canada is rallying in massive numbers right now. These things can come about very quickly, as Corona came about very fast, but they can maybe also crumble even quicker. Let's all hope for that. As they say, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Don't you worry. I know we will need to tell people that they need to come, and your work shall not be in vain. Dear Alexander, the pain that you've suffered shall not have been in vain. Thank you so much for having covered this topic with me today. I think we've said pretty much everything there is to say about Brussels. I as well regard this as a phenomenal success. It was giant numbers of people there, and and certainly the pressure is still in the streets. And now these governments, the media, they will have to react to us, react to a rapidly changing situation, which we hope to be able to dominate at one point, so that the demands of the people rise to the forefront. All right, thank you very much, you two. I'll cover the rest of the topics now myself, which is basically just saying goodbye and asking for money from people. But thank you so much for having been here.
Well deserved money, if I can say this.
Thank you very much. I try my best. Maybe somebody wants to support alternative media today. Either way, we'll stay in touch. We'll stay in contact. There's still a lot to be done, whether in Europe, whether in Germany, or internationally, even further abroad. Again, I just mentioned, like the brief tip of the iceberg today. We could have done an entire show probably about what's happening in Canada right now. I encourage everybody to go look there right now. And if they want to do that, there's no better place than at Markus's channel and at Alexander's channel on Telegram. Telegram is the place to be right now. Alexander_EHRLICH. He always has one final point. I'm always so elegant, in bringing about, like some conclusion, some closure to these things, and then he always interrupts me. What do you still have? EHRLICH? No, there's no.
You got the wrong channel address.
Wait. Did you put up another one again? Unbelievable. Okay, so there's no underscore. It's just EHRLICH Alexander.
No. The one which you have is the team channel of the nameless teams in Austria and Germany. It still exists, but it is not my personal channel. And I'm not...
it has your name! It's your first underscore last name. I thought it was your channel. Unbelievable. Okay. But you have a personal channel? Okay.
My channel is EHRLICH Alexander, all in one word.
All right.
But
I'll make sure...
If you follow the channel of Markus, which is easier to remember, Haintz, HAINTZ, you will also find a lot of contributions from myself in there, so you can find my channel through his channel by just following a link.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. You don't make my life easier, Alexander, but you know how it is. I love to hate you. All right, so thank you very much for having been here today with me. I think we did our very best, in covering this topic and also internationally. It was a pleasure speaking to you, gentlemen, and I'll speak to you both soon. Please be well and be with me next time when we cover whatever else comes up, because I'm sure there's still a bunch of things to come in this life. All right. Have a good one, guys. See you.
Take care.
Bye. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for having followed along with us. It was a tough one. I know it's been difficult for most of us because, let's be frank, most of us, although we've spoken English today and we were aiming our conversation towards the English-speaking crowd out there, the international one, you probably have been German followers of either myself or Alexander or Markus. But nonetheless, you've gotten to hear us speak English right now, or maybe you are the silent minority which we've set out to reach. We hope you've taken something from this. It was interesting to cover these things internationally. If you feel that there is value for you in that, then please let me know in the comments down below or in my own Telegram that you find this interesting. I also do have Telegram. It's ET Video and Content. ET is like my initials, Elijah T, and then video and content all in just one word. This is my personal and only channel on Telegram, so there's no mistaking it for anybody else's. Either way, it was a pleasure. I want to say almost speaking to you because you've been pretty silent today in the chat. This may be a new occasion for you to, well, obviously it's a new occasion. This is the first time you've met me. Maybe you didn't want to be rude. You wanted to first listen to our points. But trust you me, I'm a very approachable guy. And if there's anything you want to share, please, while you still can, enjoy the liberty of expression, please make full use of it. Speak to us, get in touch with us, come to our channels, reach out to us. Let's maybe meet internationally or on our home turf, wherever it may be. Let's reach our hands towards each other and build a better future together. I promise you it will have been worth it. If you want to support, my work, which I do from the bottom of my heart as best as I can, then please, support it. This lettering right here on the for you, it's going to be on the right in the middle of the screen. It says, please support my work. I believe you are familiar with PayPal. Hopefully you are. You probably have your own resistance fighters that you've been supported in the past. In the name of all of them, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for each and every cent that gets to us, because we desperately need it to cover these topics as professionally and as profoundly as we can. So if you like, do please also share, whatever currency you have with me, even Bitcoins accepted. And I promise you to put it all into our next meeting, into my future projects, and to make the very best use of it, because obviously there's still so much to be done and we're still only just beginning to scratch the surface. While these things may go very quickly, and there's a lot of pressure on the streets in, I want to say, at least my country right now, in Germany. These things, you know, they have been planned by very powerful men, and regardless whether we're there in like numbers as we were in Brussels, or whether we do it, you know, for as long as we have been all over Europe, you know, for the past 18 months, they may have a counter plan for it. And at that point, it will become a battle of attrition, and we need to make sure we're prepared for it, and we will be the ones, coming out of light of it alive at the end of it. All right. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to all of you. Please do subscribe to my Telegram. Please do subscribe if you're here on YouTube for the first time. Make sure it's not your last time. I will be covering a multitude of topics. I'm usually sort of like a run-and-gun journalist. You will see me a lot, you know, carrying my camera on the street and bringing you, the type of imagery that goes along with it. But I do also enjoy these, you know, more stellarly produced desk shows, as I call them. I also do have a studio behind me where I tend to interview interesting people. If you're one of those, please just shoot me a message. Again, just write me on Telegram. If you happen to be, you know, a major resistance fighter from anywhere in Europe, I would probably love to get to know you, you know, make your acquaintance, and then talk to you. Also extend an invitation to come to Germany to talk to me about whatever it is you're doing. You don't have to physically move here for us to get together. Obviously, we can connect through Zoom and do a live interview as we did with Markus and Alexander today. But either way, please do feel free to follow along on Telegram as I continue my work, and please also stay strong in this fight, continue to work as well, and maybe, dear friends, we'll have a chance to succeed at the end of all of it. One thing is certain, we will have tried our best, and that's what we did today. That's what I did today, and I hope it met your expectations. All right, that's it from me. Thank you so much for looking into this, and see you soon on the channel. Have a great one, have a good night, and good luck to all of us. Bye.